back to the Daily Grind, and y'all know we gotta talk about this. But before we do, make sure you hit subscribe if you're new and hit thumbs up if you're not a baby back bagel biting B-word, cause you know what time it is. It's full time.
MMA.
Yo, full-time family, we got a mother trucking banger possibly in the future. Julian Marquez discusses a potential fight with fellow rising middleweight star Israel Adesanya. This was in an exclusive interview, I believe, with BJ Penn. And what happened, how this fight potentially got discussed. First of all, some of you might be asking, who's Julian Marquez if you didn't see his UFC debut. First of all, he was on Dana White's Tuesday Night Contender Series. Then he had a very impressive UFC debut where during this walkout, he was hitting the floss and dancing around and just having fun. Then he scored a big knockout in the fight. On the mic, he got on the mic and, called out Tyron Woodley, even though he's a middleweight. He said, "Tyron Woodley, I wanted something about having the best beard in the UFC." It sounded like he was about to call him out, but he just called him out. He said he has the best beard in the UFC and shit. Julian Marquez definitely became, one of my favorite prospects that night. I watched the whole Dana White's Tuesday Night Contender Series. I'm sure I saw his fight on there, but he had an even more impressive UFC debut. So, and not to mention motherfucking Julian Marquez fighting out of Kansas City. The motherfucking Kansas City Chiefs, fuck you talking about. So, with that being said, that's relatively close to where I'm from. So, I'm riding Kansas City. So, with that being said, that's why this fight with Israel Adesanya would be a tough fight for me. Kind of like Andre Sukumtoth versus Sean O'Malley. I'm rooting for Sean O'Malley no matter what, but I also want to see Andre Sukumtoth be successful, so I don't want to see either one of those guys lose. Same here, I'd probably be rooting for Julian Marquez no matter what, even though I want to see Israel Adesanya prosper and become, hashtag non-Jones. Everyone's calling, he's got the characteristics of a John Jones. He dances like Anderson Silva. Very exciting middleweight prospect, both of these guys. So both of these dudes, in my opinion, are futures of the middleweight division as far as they're going to be big names in the UFC as long as they stay successful. Julian Marquez, you can read to the left of me what he had to say. But what it stemmed from was on UFC 221, which is when Israel Adesanya had his fight versus Rob Wilkinson in his UFC debut, Julian Marquez was actually at work. So after Israel Adesanya fought, a lot of people went crazy, like, oh snaps, it's the next John Jones, Israel Adesanya, the next middleweight champion, boom, boom. And this is what Julian Marquez put on Twitter. He said, "I'm sorry, who just fought? I'm at work." So a lot of people took that as, oh snaps, is he like, saying who the fuck is that guy about Israel Adesanya? Some people started to think about a potential fight. Both of these guys are middleweights, both of these guys are rising stars. That'd be a hell of a fight for me. I know I'd watch. There's no way I would miss Julian Marquez versus Israel Adesanya, even though I want both of them to win. But hey, it is what it is. It's the fight game. So with that being said, Julian Marquez said, no, that honestly wasn't a diss or anything like that. I was legitimately at work. I was having to run back and forth, and I was watching the fights when I could, but I missed that one, and I was like, who just fought? Who's, what's going on? So he was just saying that's legitimately what was going on, but he would definitely be down to fight Israel Adesanya. He said, "I'll fight anybody that's going to get me to the belt." He said another name a lot of people are talking about is Paulo Costa. So Julian Marquez has the right attitude. He's willing to fight these young guys, even if they don't have the biggest name. They're up and coming looking like killers. Paulo Costa looks like a Greek Brazilian god, young Brazilian UFC fighter, another middleweight star prospect. Israel Adesanya and Julian Marquez is willing to fight either one of them or anybody that's going to get him to that title shot. So with that being said, Israel Adesanya actually already has his next opponent scheduled. I forget who it is off the top of my head, but you can check that out. So it won't be Julian Marquez. Julian Marquez has been actually campaigning to get on the UFC 225 card. We know that's when the middleweight title will be on defense, likely versus Robert Whittaker and Yoel Romero. So that being said, Julian Marquez said, I don't know when the UFC is going back to Kansas City, or I would love to be on that card, but UFC 225 in Chicago is close enough. So hopefully we'll get to see Julian Marquez at UFC 225 or sooner rather than later. And with that being said, it is what it is. Let the full-time family know what you think in the comments about a possible fight between Julian Marquez and fellow middleweight rising star Israel Adesanya. And as always, thanks for watching this video. If you enjoyed this video, make sure to hit the subscribe button and also hit the notification bell right next to it so you're notified every time I upload a video. I'm out.
Bye, Felicia.